A Christian nationalist vision of the family is a key centerpiece of the 922-page manual describing proposals for the American family as central to the next conservative president's agenda. Quote, every threat to family stability must be confronted. This resolve should color each of our policies. The Dobbs decision is just the beginning. We must replace woke nonsense with a healthy vision, starting with the American family. According to Project 2025, not all families are created equal. On page 451, it defines the right kind of family as being comprised of a married mother, father, and their children. This, it claims, is the, quote, foundation of a well-ordered nation and a healthy society. Promoting this biblical concept of family is cited as a top 5 goal for a revamped Department of Health and Human Services, or HHS, which it criticizes for, quote, having lost its way by promoting equity in everything we do. According to Project 2025, efforts at promoting diversity should be repealed and replaced with policies that support what it calls the formation of, quote, stable married nuclear families, end quote. In other words, the authors of Project 2025 believe that they, the government, should have the right to dictate what your family should look like, extending the arm of government into your home, into your bedroom, to enforce a Christian nationalist worldview. They consider this not just a policy preference, but a core function of governance itself. So much for limited government. It should be noted that traditional families, people who are married with children, no longer make up the majority of family compositions in the U.S., according to recent polling by the Pew Research Center. This shift in family structures is due in part to more same-sex couples adopting children or starting their own families, reflecting the diversity and evolving landscape of today's American society. That diversity, according to the authors of Project 2025, poses a danger to the, quote, that very moral foundations of our society, end quote. The document lays out several proposals for undermining the rights of the majority of these families who do not fit Project 2025's definition of family. For instance, it wants the government to protect the right of businesses to discriminate against same-sex couples. It says the federal grants should be made to faith-based groups that refuse to recognize same-sex marriage, specifically groups that, quote, affirm that marriage is between not just any two adults, but between one man and one unrelated woman, end quote. And while acknowledging that this would violate the Respect of Marriage Act, which actually bans discrimination against same-sex couples, the document nonetheless calls for the government to, quote, protect faith-based grant recipients that maintain a biblically based social science reinforced definition of marriage and family. I'm not making this stuff up. This is actually in the 922-page document. Its policy proposals demonize children who are raised in non-traditional households. It states in Project 2025, social science reports that assess the outcomes for children raised in homes aside from a heterosexual intact marriage are clear. All other family forms involve higher levels of instability, financial stress, or poverty, or poorer behavioral, psychological, or educational outcomes. Federally funded family planning clinics would be required to actively promote, quote, the importance of marriage, which describes homes without a husband as being amongst the most dangerous places for a child to be. Amongst the most dangerous places for a child to be. Offensive and bigoted terminology is casually passed off throughout its pages, including urging the next Health and Human Services Secretary to put an end to, quote, woke transgender activism. One especially alarming proposal is to criminalize transgender identity as pornography. This proposal takes its cue from Russia's so-called gay propaganda bill passed in 2022, which bans all forms of what it refers to as LGBTQ propaganda and prohibits Russians from promoting same-sex relationships. Similarly, Project 2025 considers the propagation of transgender ideology to be pornography. It mirrors similar rhetoric used by extremist groups such as Moms for Liberty to broadly oppose drag queen reading hours and to keep LGBTQ plus books out of libraries. Just 5 pages into the Project 2025 forward, the document states, quote, the people who produce and distribute it should be imprisoned. Educators and public librarians who purvey it should be classed as registered sex offenders. Telecommunications and technology firms that facilitate its spread should be shuttered. So much for small government. It also classifies gender reassignment surgery as a form of child abuse. To confront these, what it calls threats to straight heterosexual couples, Project 2025 proposes economic incentives for traditional nuclear families, advocating for policymakers to, quote, use government power, including through the tax code, to restore the American family. By redirecting federal funding to support its biblical view, what it calls its biblical view of family, same-sex couples or other family structures would be denied equal benefits that are given to straight heterosexual couples. And the timeline for implementing all this is as soon as Trump takes office, which the document assumes is a given. Conservatives have just 2 years, it writes, and 1 shot to get this right. Time is running short. If we fail, the fight for the very idea of America may be lost. The next conservative president will enter office on January 20th, 2025 with a simple choice: greatness or failure. This very idea of America seems to exude the vast majority of American families, exclude the vast majority of American families today, most of whom do not fit Project 2025's Christian nationalist mold.